everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. Today I want to take you on a little tutorial of how to both put pockets and also an invisible side zipper in a multi-layered skirt. So I have actually talked about this a couple of times on my channel and did kind of a tutorial within a video way back when I did the strawberry dress back in 2020. But this video, I'm going to try to go really in depth, step by step on how to do this. So for this, we're talking about a 4-layer skirt and how to incorporate pockets and a side zipper within the layers of that 4-layer skirt. So this is all a part of my big princess dress project, which you will have seen in this most recent video, the most recent sewing vlog. But today we are focusing on just how to do this whole pocket multi-layer skirt situation. So I have all of my fabrics here. We've got 4 different types of fabrics. One is an embroidered mesh with sequins. One is a crinkle lame. One is a glitter tulle. And the other is just a cotton as the base layer. And then the pockets themselves are cotton as well, the exact same fabric as the skirt. You don't have to use the same fabric, but I do recommend you use a structural fabric for your pockets. And if you are making a skirt, presumably you want to have a base layer underneath that is not see-through, since the rest of these are. So that's why we've got cotton as our base layer. Of course, you could use synthetic fabrics as well, totally up to you, but I like cotton because cotton breathes. So as you will have seen in the other video, what I have already done to kind of prep all of these panels is just to gather the tops of the skirts. And at that point, we have 2 skirt pieces per layer. We have a front piece and a back piece. And at this point, this is when they all are going to come together. So let me take you over to the sewing table and I will show you step by step how those align. So what you are going to do is you are going to take the top part of the skirt side that's going to go into the side seam, and you are going to layer all 4 panels. So I have the cotton down at the bottom. I did already serge the cotton, by the way, before I gathered it up. You want to do that serging or finishing first. But yeah, I did have the cotton, then I have the lame, then I have the glitter tulle, and then I have the embroidered sequin fabric up at the top. Now on top of all of that, for 3 of these sides that you're going to do, you are going to put the pocket bag. So you're going to have all 5 of these layers all together, pin this in place, and you're going to stitch that in place 3/8 inch seam allowance. By the way, one helpful tip, if you are not working with waist measurements here that are all different on each of the layers, I highly recommend gathering them all as one. It does kind of prevent a little bit less poof, but you wind up avoiding this kind of mess where you have everything floating. However, my bottom 3 layers are probably pretty darn close because I kind of used each one to pattern, but things like lame stretch out differently than cotton, and I figured I would just kind of ease that back in with gathering. And then of course this layer is humongously cut larger than this. So I gathered each of these layers separately, and they will not be combined until I put them into the waist of the bodice. So this is what it looks like with it all pinned in place. I did stick a pin in here at the center of each of those skirts just to kind of try to control some of the mess, but you can see the pinned areas are all nice and flat. By the way, all of these skirt layers, the right side is facing up, and the pockets, I mean, they don't really have a right and wrong side, at least I don't know about your pockets, but my pockets really never do. But you would have right sides down because that is going to open up and become the inside of the pocket bag right here. So that one that I was just showing you was the front, which has pockets on both sides. This is now the back. And what we're doing with the back is that we've prepped one side with the pocket. The other side, we have just pinned to itself, no pocket on the outside. And this is going to get basted in place for basically the length that the pocket would attach. But that is because when you're putting an invisible zip in and also the pocket in, the pocket bag, actually both sides get attached to the front of the skirt. So since this is the back, we don't actually want anything attached on that side because the zipper will wind up getting attached here and also to the pocket. It's a little confusing. I'll show you more shortly, but now we're going to stitch all of this in place. Now that 3 of our 4 pocket bags are attached, or at least one side of the pocket bags, we need to press this seam. And when you're doing pockets, you always want to make sure that you are going to be pressing your seam allowance out and away from the skirt, basically so that it stays a continuous line down with the rest of the skirt. So that stays out and that just gets pressed flat like that. Obviously, when you are working with fabrics like this, do this on a very, very low setting like synthetic or silk max, because you otherwise can melt sequins, lame, etc. You don't want to do that. Now you're going to take the front section here that everything's pressed, and you are going to put the back section on top of it. And then we're just focusing on the pocket bag here, but we want to sew around the outsides of the pocket bag. So whenever I'm doing pocket bags, basically what you want to do is you want to start, you're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So it's actually going to be farther out than this seam that you've done with the pocket. That's what kind of hides the pocket. So it's going to be an 1/8 inch farther out over here. You're going to stitch down about like 3/4 of an inch there, go back up, stitch across here, stitch all the way around here, all the way to here. Once you get to here, again, you're going to be 1/8 inch out on this side so that you don't wind up seeing the seam at all. And you're going to go up like about 2.5 inches. It's personal preference depending on how big you want your opening to be, but you're going to go up a little bit and then you are going to come back down. And in this instance, you are going to stop right there at this little top point of where the pocket bag connects. Now on the other side, you are going to attach that 4th pocket piece, the one that was just loose and not attached to anything else. And you are going to, just like the first side, you're going to put it on top of the pocket bag we just did, right sides, meaning the inside of the pocket together. And you are going to sew around here, 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 and to here, you are going to, because you don't have like another actual thing that's attached to the side, you are going to just stitch up, making sure that you are slightly inside the seam allowance area. You are going to stitch up like this. And then over here, you can do the same thing if you want to go down like 0.75 inches. It's not the biggest deal if you don't, but you can do the same sort of thing, making sure that you are past that line here, because this part right here, this seam allowance that's left loose, is actually going to get attached to the zipper eventually. Now for the one pocket that is fully now a pocket, you are going to want to press it so that the back side, like the flap of the pocket, goes towards the center front, because that is the direction that your hand goes into a pocket. And you're just going to want to give a nice little pressed edge right along here. You can, I would say, lay this like on a sleeve board and press it flat, again being careful of sequins, etc., but that'll give you a nice smooth press right there on that pocket. Now if this were going to be a skirt, we would be able to put the zipper in and finish everything up on both sides. However, this side is basically going to have to wait until we have the bodice, because at that point we can put the zipper in and we could finish up what I'm about to show you that we're going to do on this side. But once our pocket is pressed, we are actually going to start putting together the layers of the skirt fabric. Also, if you notice here, now that I've pressed this, you are not seeing the interior cotton portion of the pocket unless you were to like fully pull this open, because there's a little turned bit and then that overlaps, so you don't see that at all. If something like these sequins will continuously bother you when you put your hand in there, you could pick out a few of the sequins, because you see how these are coming over the edge. So you could pick those off if you want. I don't think they're going to bother me. If they do, I will do that then. But what we are going to do now is we are going to start putting right sides together of all of these layers, and we are going to treat each one separately. So I recommend starting with the outermost layer. So in other words, the embroidered sequin layer, and we're literally just like any other regular sewing thing. We're going to put right sides together here, pin that down, sew it. And the key thing is that when you are getting really nice in right up close to here, you want to get really nice in and right up close to here. So it will become maybe slightly bulky when you're doing all of these layers, because we're going to do it to this layer, and then we are going to make sure that layer stays out of the way using pins, clips, etc. And we're going to do it to the glitter tool layer. The same thing, right sides together, and you want to get nice and tight in there right there. And then the same thing with the lame, and the same thing with the cotton, treating each layer separately. Hopefully that makes sense, but basically you are going to wind up with this kind of little like flower center right there underneath underneath all of those layers where they're all kind of coming out from, but I'll show you when it's all done because it will look nice and neat from the outside. And of course, as you sew each layer, don't forget to press it as well. I recommend using a sleeve board so you can get really right up in this little nook here and get in there with the nose of your iron and press your seam. You are welcome to press it however you like. I like to press my seam open. Once you've done one, it's going to kind of look like this as you bring the edges over to do another layer. And finally, once all of the layers are sewn together individually and pressed, I like to give this little point a little press as well, because as you can see right now, it's kind of a bit bumpy. So once I press it, it should lay pretty flat, and then I'll show you what this all looks like on the dress form. So this is what it looks like when it's all done. We have our pocket right here. All the points come together here, and then below that pocket, everything is nice and loose. You get all of the layers acting separately, if they don't stick to each other at least. The lame down there, the glitter, the embroidery, and you can see all those layers, and they're nice and flowy all together. So now at this point, I am going to go back to where the vlog picked back up, because the skirt is as done as it can be until it can get attached to the bodice, at which point we will put the zipper in. So in just a moment, you will be seeing the zipper. All right, the skirt and the bodice are now finally attached, which means that it is time to do the zipper. And I'm going to attempt to do this whole zipper section here without actually like showing you the whole dress, because that whole dress reveal is going to come in the next video on Tuesday. So do be sure that you are subscribed, you know, get the notifications, etc., so that you know when that video goes live. But for now, let's go ahead and take the dress and put in the invisible zipper within the pockets and all of those sheer layers. So I think I mentioned this in my last video, the part 1 of this project, but I did actually buy a zipper that is longer than what I need. So I am going to be doing kind of an additional step of kind of shortening the zipper. It's very, very easy to do with an invisible zip. You don't have to worry about, you know, falling off the edge or anything like that. But we are going to open our zipper here, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to press this zipper flat, because when you get an invisible zipper, it is going to have the zipper part kind of as a ridge folded almost back this way, and we want to open that up like that. So we're going to open it like this and then press it with the iron on low. And you are going to do this for the entire length of the zipper. Now I do say entire length, I don't actually need my entire length, but even still I'm going to press it open all the way. And we're doing this so that we can get really nice and close to the zipper teeth. For an invisible zipper, the idea is you don't really want to see the teeth. Now I recommend closing the zipper back up so that you can kind of know which side is which. You don't have to do this. You could just actually hold it out like this, but you want to make sure you know which side is up and which side is right and which is left. That way you'll know that this side goes with the right side of the fabric, this side goes with the left side of the fabric. And then the zipper basically just goes into this opening, right sides together like that, and left sides together like that. So you're going to flip them away from each other. Take your zipper like this and then flip them away like that, and do right sides together so that they can go with the fabric. And we're going to line it up so that the top of the zipper here, you can actually put it a little bit past where your kind of connection point is right here. Hopefully this visual works for you guys, but you are going to want to kind of stick this up in there to do that, and that way you don't see this little top flap of the zipper. It's going to disappear up into where it closes off. So I have actually gone and put a mark on the zipper with the friction pen where this is going to line up with when that opening starts. So this point right here, these pink marks will line up at that point. The next thing that you're going to want to do as you are pinning your zipper in place along your bodice is once you get to your waist seam, you want to again make a little mark where that is, and instead of just pinning it right now, actually go ahead and zip your zipper back up so that you can see where that mark is. Transfer it to the other side, and that way you know where that mark needs to be to hit the waist on the other side as well, and you know that your seams will line up. Now below this mark, when you get to the area where you have the pocket, where the pocket is on one side, you are going to make sure that you're pinning your zipper just to this part of the pocket bag right here. So you're not going to do anything on this part with the other glittery parts attached. You want to just be dealing with this portion of the pocket here. And just like the top part of the zipper, you're just going to pin that all along. And once you get to here, this is actually going to be the bottom of our zipper. So the rest of this is just excess. Again, I bought a way too long zipper for this because I thought I was going to do a back zip at first, but that is really all we need there. So we're going to sew our zipper in to that point, and then we don't have to worry about the rest of this. And we actually can even cut it off at the end. Now for the other side, you're just going to pin it along as normally. You are going to wind up with a lot of extra past the end point, but I held these up together, holding the waist seams together to see where this part of this little pocket bit, like where it ends, would be on this side. So I made a little mark there. That's where I'm going to sew to on this side. And then up here at the top, as we get into here, I honestly wouldn't recommend pinning the very top of your zipper in place until after you've sewn the other side down, because otherwise you're going to wind up with like pins and a lot of crossing pieces, and that could get really confusing as you're sewing each side on. So fold this back, just do one at a time, and then once you've sewn that on, then you can pin this side in place and sew this part on. So now let's go ahead and sew this all in place. You are going to want an invisible zipper foot for this, which looks like this. An invisible zipper foot has these two tracks along the bottom, and that allows the little zipper ridge to go and get put into those tracks so that it can stay nicely in place and get tied up to the edge of that. Now I'm starting my sewing at the bottom end of this zipper. So this is the bottom end of the skirt going this way. And I have put the zipper ridge into the left little slot here. And my needle right now is not actually centered. I've moved it over to a 4.0. Sometimes I actually do a 4.5 because I find that if you put it on like a 3.5, making it actually centered, that it often will have the threads getting actually caught in the zipper teeth. And I just like to avoid that by moving it over a little bit. So now we're just going to sew, keeping this in that little ridge, and then our first side of the zipper will be attached. As you get to the pocket, you can peel away this side of the pocket so that it doesn't get in your way. And honestly, now that I'm on this fabric that is very likely to get caught in the zipper, I am actually going to move my width over to a 4.5 just to keep the sewing stitch away from catching in all this fabric. Once you get up to this very top section, you want to open up this seam so that it lays flat out this way, and that way you can get into where you need to be sewing. And there is our first side of the zipper. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other side. Now that means that we have our zipper in, and we can go ahead and test the zipper to make sure that it works and we didn't get any fabric stuck or threads, you know, the seam going across the zipper. Invisible zippers, I find, will always have a little trouble at the waist seam because that is where it is thickest. So we do sometimes have to work to get the waist seam through and hope that we don't break the zipper in the process. There we go. And this fabric is also particularly tricky because I have the sequins all over, which can very easily get stuck in the zipper. But there we go. We have it all zipped up like that. So now what we need to do is join the fabrics together below the zipper, just like I showed you the first time. The one thing that I didn't mention before is that where the end of the pocket is, you will actually need to cut your fabrics just a little bit right here because that will give you a continuous thing. Otherwise this seam allowance is going to get trapped down. So you just make this little cut, and that way it gives you the continuous seam allowance so that you can stitch everything together. This top couple inches or top inch or so, that's going to be stitched just all of the layers to the other side, and then it's going to break away into each individual layer like I showed you at first. Oh, and the one other important thing is that you need to press your zipper, and that will hopefully keep the fabrics away from the zipper. Press it just like any other seam, put it on a sleeve board and press that in place on a low setting. So this is honestly one of the most challenging parts because you need to pull the zipper like at a 90-degree or more angle away from the seam, pull the end of it. And that is because you need to stitch starting right where this zipper stitch leaves off, and you need to stitch the sides together here. So I have pinned together just about like 1.5 inches. I wanted to go about a 1/2 inch past where I had made that little slit in the outer fabrics, and that will help stabilize it. And now I'm going to stitch all of those layers together right here. Then we'll separate and do each layer individually like I showed you on the other side. The individual skirt layers are now all sewn to each other down here, and we have one additional step to do, which is if we do want to cut off this tail right here, then we need to stitch across the zipper. We don't want to rely on just the fact that the zipper can't really get under here. Just in case something were to happen, we want a little extra safety. So we are just, the zipper's all the way unzipped right now. We're just going to make a little horizontal line that goes across the zipper right here. Do it like a few times over, maybe like go back and forth 3 times, and that will stop the zipper. It will also just like kind of sew this little tap down, and then you can go ahead and you can cut off whatever end bit that you want so that you don't have this hanging on inside your skirt if you do have an extra long zipper. If you got the right length zipper, you can skip this step. This is what it looks like from the outside with the stitch across, and then this is what it looks like from the inside. I've already cut off the excess here, but you can see the zipper is now all secure. And here is our fully zipped up seam right here, pocket right here going to the front, all of our separate layers right here. So I call that a success. And now on Tuesday, you can come back and look at what this entire thing looks like as a dress. So that is going to be it for me on this tutorial. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. And again, if you want to watch this whole like dress project, the first part, if you're watching this right when it comes out, the first part has already come out and is linked down in the description. The second part has not yet come out. It'll come out on Tuesday. So make sure you're subscribed so that you see when that comes out. But if you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, again, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week with sewing vlogs out on Tuesdays and sometimes other random sewing and costuming content like this out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can join my YouTube channel memberships or leave me a super thanks right here on YouTube. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Mirage, Laura, Jean, and Janelle. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!